Most of us recognize that the sacrifices made by military service men and women are deep and not always easy to measure. We're talking about a decorated Army veteran who asked to bring her service dog to work as an accommodation for her disabilities. But what happened next sparked a legal battle and ultimately clarified just how long an employer can take to respond to an ADA accommodation request made by an employee. So, whether you're an employee who's wondering if your rights are being ignored or an employer who's trying to stay compliant, by the end of this video, you'll come away with a clear understanding of what this case teaches us about disability accommodations, delays, and legal risk under the ADA. Hi, I'm Harlow Reed, employment lawyer, HR consultant, and creator of the HR Insider. On this channel, I do more than share legal opinions. I break down real legal cases to show how the law might apply to your workplace. Whether you're an employee trying to protect your rights or an employer who's trying to do things the right way, today's case is one of the clearest reminders that when it comes to disability accommodations, how it is handled is just as important as what is decided. And if you are a small business owner, an HR professional, or a manager who's responsible for employee requests under the ADA, this is a case you absolutely need to know. Okay, let's talk about it. The content on this channel is for informational purposes only and shouldn't be taken as legal advice. Always consult a qualified attorney or HR professional for guidance on your specific situation. And hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. This story begins with Alisha Strife, a 38-year-old mother living in Magnolia, Texas. She's also a decorated U.S. Army veteran who was deployed to Kuwait and Iraq in 2003 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Now, during her service, Alisha sustained some pretty serious injuries to her shoulder, her leg, her brain, and she was later diagnosed with PTSD. She was medically discharged from the military in 2005, and after returning home, she decided she wanted to pursue a new mission, becoming an educator. So she joined the Aldine Independent School District in 2012, teaching 5th and 6th grade. But over time, the physical and psychological effects of her service made classroom teaching impossible. So in 2015, Alicia transitioned into a role as a testing coordinator, and she thrived in that position. Her strong performance eventually led to a promotion into the Human Resources Department in 2021. But unfortunately, following her discharge from the military, Alicia's disabilities progressed. By 2017, the Department of Veterans Affairs officially classified her as 100% disabled. That diagnosis was due to her service related PTSD and depression, along with other physical conditions affecting her knee and ankle. After exhausting other treatment options, she was approved for a certified service dog named Indy. Indy wasn't just a companion, he helped Alicia with her balance, her mobility, and managing the acute symptoms of PTSD. And so on August 30th, 2022, Alicia formally submitted an accommodation request through the Aldine Independent School District's internal portal, asking to bring Indy to work. She supported her request with a letter from her VA provider, Dr. Lisa Miller, stating that the dog was invaluable to Alicia's recovery. But instead of approving the request, the district's Employee Accommodations Committee said it needed more documentation. They questioned Dr. Miller's credentials and asked for additional medical support. Alicia then submitted a letter from her psychiatrist, Dr. Gerdish Mann, a letter that echoed Dr. Miller's exactly. Dr. Mann also completed a medical questionnaire in the district's portal confirming that having support from a service animal was a necessary accommodation. Still, 10 days later, Aldine Independent School District told Alicia that the next step would be an examination by a physician hired by the district. At that point, Alicia began to feel like her request was being stonewalled. So she contacted legal counsel, and what followed was a series of back and forth letters and growing frustration on both sides. Let's review the timeline here so we don't lose track of what's happened. So, I wanted to walk through the key moments in this case because it tells us everything about how this went from a simple request to a federal lawsuit. Beginning on August 30th, 2022, Alisha Strife submitted her accommodation request through AISD's internal Broadspire portal, asking to bring her certified service dog, Indy, to work. She included medical documentation from her VA provider supporting her request. On September 16th, 2022, AISD's Employee Accommodations Committee meets and says it needs more information to determine what job duties are affected and whether alternatives exist. In October, Alicia submits a second letter, this time from her psychiatrist, reiterating the same points and emphasizing that Indy is critical to her physical and mental health. On November 1st, Dr. Mann, Alicia's psychiatrist, completes AISD's formal medical questionnaire, clearly stating that a service animal is a reasonable accommodation for her conditions. On November 11th, the organization that certified Indy as a service dog warns AISD that requiring a separate medical exam could be considered disability discrimination under the ADA. On November 16th, AISD pushes back, asking Alicia to confirm whether she is refusing to cooperate in the interactive process. On November 18th, Alicia's attorney sends a letter to AISD outlining potential ADA violations and formally requesting that the district approve the service dog accommodation. In response, AISD acknowledged that it understood a service dog was the only accommodation that Alicia was seeking, but said it wanted to explore alternative options. When Alicia asked what other accommodations the district was considering, she received no response. On December 5th, AISD responded. They say the letters Alicia submitted are inconsistent, lack proper letterhead, and in one case may have been drafted by Alicia herself. They insist that a district approved medical exam is necessary to determine what accommodations are reasonable. On December 23rd, AISD schedules a medical examination nearly 4 months after Alicia first submitted her accommodation request. The district rejected additional letters from Alicia's doctors, claiming they lacked official letterhead. Despite multiple confirmations of her need for a service dog, AISD insisted on proceeding with its own medical evaluation. And on January 6, 2023, Alicia's attorney sends three additional letters from two more physicians, again confirming her limitations and arguing AISD to grant the request for Indy to accompany her at work. And on January 10th, 2023, Alicia underwent the district's required medical examination. Two separate doctors confirm that she has impairments affecting her balance, her gait, and her ability to stand, and both conclude that she requires a service dog in all settings, including the workplace, to prevent further injury. Despite this, AISD claims the medical opinions are deficient because the doctor's examination notes were not included. On January 13th, Alicia provided the notes from the doctor, but AISD then stated that the doctor's opinions were still deficient because they failed to propose any information regarding potential alternative accommodation. By this point, more than 120 days had passed, and Alicia still had no formal approval on her request for an accommodation. It had now been over 6 months since Alisha Strife submitted her initial request. AISD took 6 months to make a decision. 6 months. And during that time, they requested more and more documentation. They even asked Alisha Strife to undergo an independent medical evaluation, something not typically required under the ADA when a treating physician has already provided sufficient information, sufficient documentation, which in this case they had. And during the time when she was going through this back and forth process with them, she continued to show up at work. She continued without her service dog while she was waiting on an answer. And it was this pattern of delay, the additional hurdles and prolonged uncertainty, that pushed her to file a lawsuit on February 1st, 2023. And she argued that AISD's response was more than just slow. It was a failure to accommodate her under the ADA. She asked the court to require AISD to allow her service dog at work, and the court granted her request. This case is a clear reminder that delay is denial, so employers should not push accommodation requests to the bottom of their inbox. These are time sensitive issues and they deserve a priority. When an employee requests a reasonable accommodation, they're not asking for a favor, they're asking for a way to do their job without unnecessary physical or mental strain. And in Alicia's case, her fear was real. Without her service dog, she worried that she might fall and not be able to get back up. That's not just discomfort, that's danger. And when the person making the request is a disabled veteran who's trying to build a second career in education, dragging that out in court, it just looks bad. It doesn't look good on the employer, and it opens the door to legal liability. Employers will not get credit for approving an accommodation months after it was needed, especially not if the delay included red tape or extra hoops like unnecessary medical exams. Those steps don't protect employers, they expose them. If you are an employee listening to this video and you're dealing with a disability or requesting accommodations, here's what you need to remember. Documentation matters. Put your requests in writing, get support from your provider, and above all, don't give up. Alisha didn't. She pushed, she documented, she followed up, and when the system stalled, she stood up for herself. And that made all the difference. This case isn't just about a service dog or a delay, it's about what it means to treat disabled employees with dignity and to follow the law. And if you want to learn more about your rights under the ADA, check out the full ADA playlist that I have on my channel. I'll put the link below. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.